Okay, so yeah, starting this Trello board, this is what's called a Kanban board. It's one of the Scrum methods to have a Kanban board. It's really nice because it really gives you a good visual about like where things are at in certain progressions. So it's a really neat way to organize tasks. And we've talked about this. We used it. Here's a little more maybe in-depth kind of flow. This was something similar to what a little more simple, but a little similar to what I was at my last company. And this is not like, when you talk about product management, there's definitely not one way to do it. This is not the way to do it. It's going to be pretty diverse, but you'll find some very common things. So I think there's some commonalities that you'll see in other places. It probably will definitely not look exactly like this, but it'll probably be similar. So I have these. Let's just look at these like 6 main columns. We have stories, which we'll talk about in a second. We have the backlog, the on deck, in progress, QA review, and master GitHub complete. So what these columns are, let's just go through these columns one at a time. Stories, this is where we're going to throw our user stories. And we can think about user stories as ways that people without any coding experience, or maybe they have coding experience, but it's just a way we can like write out the features we want to build in just like in words. So for example, we're gonna like, here's like the stories we're like going to be building on. We're going to do like a finding all not sold homes. I should just call that for sale homes, and I'm going to say, you might see like these fake characters used in these stories. Like I'm going to use the name Alice. Like Alice is a front end user. So as Alice, I want an available page. This should show listings by real estate agent and should display the price, number of beds, baths, and the square footage, street, city, and zip. This is like I said, a really simplified story. Stories could be like pages long about exactly what you want. But this like paragraph in here gives us enough detail, like, oh, we need to like somehow, we have a real estate app, and we're going to have agents, and then like we're going to have some properties. So we want a page where we get all the available properties for a given agent. And with just one paragraph, we can kind of like, okay, I know what I need to build, or we can get started. We're going to do like a for sale homes by city, like a cities page. Like as Alice, I want a cities page. Just this should first have a drop down grabbing all available cities. And from there, I can select the city. Once I select the city, I should see the price, number of beds, bathrooms, and square footage. So this page, when it loads, I should get a drop down of cities. And then once I select the city, then I should see the properties for that city. Finding home for a specific buyer in city and a price range. So as Alice, I want to select an agent, and then I want to select the buyer, and then see all the homes that meet the desired city that the buyer wants to live in and under their max price. So we're going to have an agent. An agent's going to have many buyers. And like a buyer is going to have like a set of cities that they want to live in and a max price. So what this is saying, I should go to a page, see a drop down of agents. I should select an agent, and then I should see another drop down of all that agent's buyers. And then once I select the buyer, then I should see all this information of the properties that meet the cities they want to live in and is under their max price. And then last, we're going to do like cities have the highest selling homes. And And like, as Alice, I want to see a chart that shows prices of each city on properties that have been sold. So this is just like, I want a chart to see kind of just like the average price of the houses. So those are stories. And that way you can have like your project manager, or you can have your client, or you can have your boss. They write the stories. And then that's just a good way for like the technical people to talk to the non-technical people. Is through stories. And then from our stories, we're going to start creating tasks to do. So for instance, we have like this available page. So something I might add in my backlog is like, you know, the for sale or available, spell available. Like maybe that, like I want like a front end task for that. And I want like an available, like a back end task for that. And, you know, we have like a homes by like a cities front end and the cities back end. Now I'm throwing these on the back, like I have this backlog table because here I can just start like, I can just start breaking up my tasks, and I throw them on the backlog, and I can just kind of just throw whatever here. I could like throw like, you know, AI to find, you know, most cool house or whatever. Like this backlog allows me to add even maybe features that are like extra. And I can maybe track them down. It's kind of like a brain, like almost could be a brainstorming column too, in a way. So I now have these backlog columns where I can just like where you're, and this is mainly probably for your project manager, where they can start taking the user stories and breaking them up into smaller tasks and really defining clearly the features that need to be complete. And then we have an on deck. So the on deck is just kind of like this extra column, just to be like, hey, these tasks are ready to go and they should be worked on when someone has time. Like these are the one, like it's like a baseball game, you know, you're up to bat next. That's what it is to be on deck. So they're the ones up next. And, you know, then when someone actually starts working on them, then they go into the in progress. And the in progress, this is just, you know, you're actually coding it. Then you might have something like a QA review, what you're going to do for your capstone. And this is where, like, you know, you're going to have a branch, you're going to create a pull request, and then you're going to like create that pull request, and then someone needs to review that. So that's that phase. Maybe you need to do some testing, because normally, and definitely all like in like at a company, there's definitely going to be something like this, where you're not just going to go from in progress to pushing it to master. You're going to go from in progress, and then there's going to be like this, probably a pretty big check process to make sure you didn't break anything. You might have a QA team that bangs on it. That might be part of your job, but there's definitely going to be this review process. And then once that passes, well, it might go back. You might find a bug, or QA might find a bug and be like, hey, that's not done. You need to finish that. So it goes back in progress. Then you make the changes, go back, and then they test it again. And then once it's done and pushed to commit to master, then that's like, then it's finally done. So this is and I'm going to leave some flexibility for your TAs to kind of create their own flow, but this is, your flow is going to look a little something like this for your portfolio project. Any questions? And we'll kind of go through this week, kind of like go through this, because a nice thing about this, like when you can have like this in progress card, and you can maybe have like these like reminders about what you need to do before you move something to in progress. Like, I want to make sure the task and requirement are clear. I can also add my name to the card. This is nice because when you all meet up as a group, it's just very easy. Oh, James is working on available backend. So it's very clear about who's working on what. The next step, I can make sure there's no pending changes and pull from master. So before I begin working on a feature, I want to pull from master. And then after I do that, then I want to create a new branch and begin work on that, or check into a new branch. So I want to create a new branch and then start working on it. And yeah, likewise, like if I'm ready to review, task requirements are complete, I'm going to pull from master. I'm going to push up to my branch and create a pull request. So this is a nice way to give us some structure, in our job of like, this is how the flow works. This is the process we're going to do. So let's, so we looked at the user stories. So this is generally like our first task of like building an app is going to be like getting the requirements. Like, we need to know what we're building. And we kind of have that. I would say like this is a lot of getting the requirements. I would say two other common things would be, designing our database, design DB, and a rough UX, or I'll just call it a rough or design, some wireframes. And like, I would say, it's the design wireframes and design database, those can kind of go, I think it kind of depends what order, but getting the requirements, that's going to be like the first thing we want to do. Then from there, we want to design our database and design our wireframes. Now for this example, I'm going to just show us the wireframes. So we're not actually going to go, we could go into Figma or like sketch out some stuff. So for your portfolio project, you'll be like, Will and then maybe Derek will probably be giving you the wireframes. You're gonna be like, here's what we want you to build. Here's how we want it to look. Which is very common that you have like some design team telling you how they want it to look. So let's kind of look at our wireframes, which is actually just I just have this up as a web app. But let's just kind of pretend these are wireframes. You can actually build out wireframes where you can click through them and there's actually no code behind them. So with Figma, you can you could build this out in Figma with like no code that had like links and stuff, or simulated links. It's really just going to different screenshots, but you can create like this really pretty realistic user interface. So here's kind of what we're seeing. So here's our available page, where we have an agent, and then we list all that agent's property. There's another agent, so there's that agent's property. Here's another agent's, there's that agent's properties, etc. So that's the available page. Here's our cities page where we have this drop down where we select the city, and then we see some city information or some property information for that given city. Then we have the find home feature, which is we select an agent. Then that should get a list of that agent's buyers. And then once we select that, then that should show that buyer's properties in a given, for, you know, under their max price and in their desired cities. And then we have this city cost page, which is just going to go through and find the average cost of all of our homes by city. We're going to put this in a chart. So something at this point too that you might like when you get, this might be something, especially as like if there's not, this is stuff you can probably likely get before you start developing. Like you get the user stories and you might get some wireframes. Because the designer and the project manager who don't know anything about code, they can really build this all out without any code, and they can get this kind of visual representation, and this it's a really nice roadmap to get built out. And so they might give you the user stories and give you this stuff, and then they might ask you, how long do you think this is going to take? That fun question. So let's just guess, like, I mean, I know we're going through this slowly, but looking at this, I know I've also kind of told you 4 days, but I think we could do it faster, or I think we could do it longer. But looking at this, how long do you think this would take to build? You're going like, come on, you have to like answer this question because I'm your project manager and you're the developers, and I'm asking you, how long do you think this is going to take to build?
3 days.
3 days. Cool. Anyone else?
I think now with the SQL stuff, we could do it in 2.
2? Cool. There's really not a right or wrong answer. It's just, it's something you have to be prepared to answer. And it's something that as you're starting, you know, to get a little more experience, even on your personal projects or on your homework, when we give you the requirements, spend, you know, a couple minutes to ask yourself that question. How long do I think this is going to take to build? Write it down and then see how close you were.
I have a question. Do you typically want to like overestimate anyway?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Because that's like that was my experience, is like I would always look at something and I'm like, oh, I can build this. But you know, take into account you might get stuck on like some of those like weird issues, like where you have a syntax error that lasts like 4 hours, or you have, you know, some weird unforeseen problem that you didn't see. Another thing to think about is that would be a very fair part of your answer, is to be like, oh, you know, I don't really know much about charts. I don't know how long that's, I need to like look into that a little bit to give you an answer. So you don't necessarily, and you shouldn't like answering that question with, I don't know, I need to look at this a little bit before you give them an answer is also a good response. So don't just like right off the bat, you know, I show you something for 10, 15 minutes and ask you how long it's going to take. Try to come up with an answer. Be like, well, I kind of need to investigate a little into charts, because so if there's something you haven't done before, like we haven't done like this charting line, like you might not know how hard or easy that is. So that's the type of thing you want to like throw into your answer. Like well, I think maybe 2 days, but depending on, you know, if the chart is hard, that could add some extra time. So be a little flexible when you answer that question, if, as much as your project manager will allow it. And yeah, overestimate. Obviously, if I'm like, yeah, this is going to take me a month, then they're going to be like, why? So. I don't know. I don't have like a number, but like think about how long it will take and then maybe add like, I don't know, 10, 20%.
Sure, because it's always better to guess high and then pleasantly surprise people than take forever.
Yeah, and it's kind of easier to ask for the time up front, because you might say like, oh, I think this is going to take 5 days, and then your project manager might be like, really, 5? Why? Like, and you're just like, I don't know, like this just seems like hard. And it's going to be a lot easier than saying like, oh, this is going to take 3 days, and then it's day 4, and then you're actually like, I need 2 more days. So it really, I don't know. It depends a lot on the style of your project manager, how and the company, like how strict they are. But with teleperformance, I would overestimate like double what I would think it would take. Just if they like, there are times sometimes be things that I'm like, I think this would take me 15 minutes. I'm like, I think that's going to take me 4 hours. But even something like that, even like a quick 15-minute task, I would like add an hour or 2, because it's like, well, I got to like clone the repo. I got to kind of like check things. There's kind of all like this setup work of like, it's not just the code. Like if someone were to ask me, how long is it going to take me to center this map, like this chart? I'd be like, I mean, that'd take me like 5 minutes once I get into the code. But like, I probably got to do stuff with like the Jira card. You got to, clone the repo, set it up. Like, so I'd be like a half hour, just give myself that time to do all that other stuff. So keep that in mind. It is, and like start working on it now, like, because it's something you kind of, with experience, you kind of get used to it. I'm still like, it's still hard. Like it's I don't know. I definitely am not close to my estimates. So like, oh, that's going to take me 5 days, takes me like a day, or like, it's going to take me a day, it takes me 2 weeks. Stuff. I mean, that's a little extreme, but cool. But we know what we're building. I would say, yeah, like, I think this is, we're going to go a little slow. So I think we could get this done in, if we're going fast, I think we could get this done in 2 days, but we're going to go slow. So I'm thinking, try to get this wrapped up in 3 days, and maybe give us a 4th day to kind of review some stuff. Because we're also going to go slow through like the Trello process. That's definitely going to slow us down. But that's fine. That's what we're part of the thing we're learning this week. Cool. So now we have that. So let's say we have like the get requirements and the wireframes. Those are kind of done. So the next thing we want to do is design the database. So having a wireframe is a nice thing to have when designing a database. Having your requirements, you at least need your requirements or user stories. But we have this, so I think this is pretty good way. So we're going to use Lucidchart for this. You haven't signed up for Lucidchart, have you? I know I've like talked about it, but I don't know if I've had you sign into it yet. If not, let's have you sign up for this. So you'll be using this starting next week. And I think they make you like, we actually have some people from DevPoint Labs who work at Lucidchart. They're Lucid's based here in, I don't know if they're based in Salt Lake. I know they have an office here out in Draper. We do not want to do anything that's paid. Okay, let's open up. It's a little trick. If you open up in like incognito mode, it's like you don't want to be signed into something. Open your browser up in incognito mode, because then it won't like remember that you're like logged in. So I want to sign up for free. Yeah, and then just select this free plan. And create an account. Let's just do this, Tim. There's got to be like a John or Jane Smith at google.com. That's got to be a valid email. Or I guess you can register with Google. Okay, anyway. I'm already logged in here. So what we're gonna do is open this up. And I kind of want you to spend like 10 minutes. So if you don't want to do this on Lucidchart, you don't have to. It might be, I think it might actually be easier just to do this on a pencil and paper, but I kind of do want to show you Lucidchart. So what you're going to do is, and take like 10 minutes, we'll kind of be quick with this, is come out here and build out a table. So I forget here, is anyone like to this point with the login? Like, are you in this? Do you have this, like, do you see this entity relationship section? Okay, these are the ones we want to grab, because what we're creating is called like an entity relationship diagram. And these are like our little database tables. So you can like pull one of these things here. So this is just going to be like your database.
I do not have the entity relationship thing.
You do not? Okay.
I think you have to like create from template and click database something or
Okay.
other.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, go to file from template.
Okay.
I'm all out. I'm over the document limit. And then, yeah, if you create from template, right? Then you select, there's an entity relationship one. Is that right, Alan?
Mine says database diagrams,
Oh, database, okay.
or I mean, I'm sure there's a few different ones, but
Yeah, a database diagram one's fine too. Essentially, what we want is just these tables that we can connect. And then they have 2 or 3 columns. Actually, really just need the one with 2. But so let me kind of get you started with this. So I want you to think about how your database is going to look. So with our, and we can just do this together, maybe that's easier. What kind of models do you think we're going to have with this app? Like, let's just say these are wireframes. What kind of models do you think we're going to have?
Homes, city, agents.
So homes, let's just maybe throw some of these down. Home. We're going to have agents. Does anyone else think of anything?
Users.
Users, yeah, because we have agents, and we have like I'm going to call them buyers. So there's kind of 2 different, users. There's agents and buyers. buyers. So someone said cities. We'll just throw this here for now. I mean, we'll kind of look at these and see which ones we want to keep. Anything else? Okay, so let's maybe think about how we would connect these. Like this is when we start to think about like our associations, like the has many through, has one. So kind of got to look at, let's look at this find home one. I think, might help show. So first I select an agent, and this is part of the story. Then from that agent, then I select that agent's buyers. And then I should see a list of that buyer's properties. So what does that make us think of? And also, and I also want to show this one too. So sorry, let me go. An agent has many properties. So I think that's a little, that could be a little confusing, but Tom, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh no, I was gonna say, I mean, I guess this would kind of be the point where you'd like ask the question, like, does an agent are the homes unique to an agent? Like, is it just a singular has many relationship? An agent has many homes, or can a home have many agents?
Yeah, and that would be that's a great question to ask. And looking at, and that would be, so when you're kind of building out your database, you have a question like that. That's a completely normal question. And that's also not in the story, right? But that's something you're probably going to want to go back and ask the project manager. So this is like, can be a back and forth process. It's not like you get the user story and then it's like you go. It's like you get the user story and you try to start building it. And then when you do have a question, you go clarify it. Does an agent, and that would be a good thing to clarify. Does a property, this has many? And you could ask that, like the project manager doesn't have to know about like has many relationships. You just go ask the project manager, can a property, like can a agent have many properties, and can a property have many agents? Like someone without any code is going to understand that. And then they're going to say, for this example, they're like, no, you have a property, just one property belongs to an agent. You can't have properties belonging to multiple agents. So we've got that clarified. So something that's like really important is, to ask these questions to your project manager. It's a weird kind of, the project manager engineer dynamic can be a little weird, because like they kind of are your boss, but you probably are making more money than them depending on like your seniority level. But they are the ones who kind of have say in what's happening. But you also have say too a lot of the times. So it should really be like a back and forth. And really spending the time to resolve any foreseen things, blind spots they have, and they should help you see blind spots you have. Because you're never going to get a perfect user story. You're never going to get a perfect requirement. Coding is all about, like, so much of it is just about like the edge cases. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? So getting that stuff clarified sooner than later is going to save you time. So I think with that, we can now say, our our agent has many homes, and our homes has one agent, right? Cool. What about our buyers? go back. It looks like this. I think this is where we really show our buyer's information. So we select an agent, and then we select the buyer. And then we see properties in that buyer's price range and their desired cities.
But you could
So-
select in any agent and there would be properties for Migdalia. Can you change agents and there will still be more properties? Because what I'm really asking is, did the buyers have more than one agent? Right?
Yeah, and that's also, that's a good question. And this is really what should happen here, just being the project manager, like when I select a new agent, this should actually clear the properties because I should then have to select a buyer. So a buyer belongs to one agent. A buyer can have one agent, an agent can have many buyers. So let's.
And then the homes don't necessarily belong to the buyers. It's just their, what am I trying to say? Their
Yeah, exactly.
requirements. It's filtering to their requirements, but they don't belong to any.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
just belong to you.
Because yeah, we're not, yeah, and that's exactly how it's going to be. Because like it kind of seems like maybe initially from like the wireframe that like a buyer has many properties, but it's not. We're just going through. We're going to look at the agent's properties, and then we're going to have to match. Like we're going to get a list of the agent's properties, and then look at like the buyer's desired city and max price, and then create this list back. So yeah, there's no relationship between buyers and homes. So for this cities table, what I'm actually going to do here, and this is more just so we have another table, I'm going to actually create, I'm going to call this addresses. And I'm going to say a home has one address. We're going to do just a one-to-one. And just to like follow the notes, homes would be a fine name for that model. I'm just going to call this properties because that's what we're calling it. So that's what it's called in Neo. So I'm just going to switch that name to properties. Homes was fine, but I'm going to do a has one. So property has one address. So now we kind of have this filled out, so we can come in here and now we can fill out our attributes. And you know how we could do this is we could look at the user story and look at this. I'm just going to fill these out. So our user is going to have a first name and a last name, email, and a phone. And I'm also going to say the type of these. String, and string. These are all just going to be strings. And then my buyers, that's going to have a first underscore name, last underscore name. We're going to do a sold price. Get some more tables. Insert row below. What do we need? Okay, we have sold price. We're gonna have beds, baths. Type that in baths. Square foot. What's the one other thing we need in here? This relationship.
Foreign key?
Yeah, we need the foreign key, which we'll call agent underscore ID. So that'll be the ID of the agent that it belongs to.
Should sold price be max price? Maybe.
Sold price be max price. What would be the difference? Or oh, I see what you're saying. Like the max price of the buyer.
Yeah.
We're gonna. Oh crap! I was sorry. This is actually my. Did I just like mix up two tables? I totally did. Sorry. It's kind of just looking. So I'm gonna actually make this the properties table. I see what you're saying. Delete. So I was like mixing those two tables. So this is my properties, because the properties has like the sold price, beds, baths, square footage. It should also have like a price and a sold. So this is going to be a Boolean. That might be a little redundant if we have the sold price, but we'll just throw it in there. This is going to be a integer, or we can make these. I don't know if we're going to keep track of the pennies, but if we wanted to keep track of the pennies, that'd be a float. Our beds, there's going to be a can you have like 2.5 beds?
I don't think you can have half bedrooms, but you can have half bathrooms.
Let's just make these in. I have an integer in the notes, so I'm going to keep it that way. But yeah, that might be something to think about. Integer. Let's just do floats. Just whatever float. Square foot. Square foot should be an integer. That's and this is going to be a foreign key. And then sorry, so I switched this to, I probably should have just not switched those tables. Okay, so this is going to be our buyers. So they're going to have a first name. They're going to have a last name. What else do we want in here? This is what you were saying, Alan, a max price. They want a max price inside of there. Something I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw the cities inside of here. I think one way you could do this is a buyer could have many cities. And we could maybe have like an address, have one city, but, or not. I mean, I think the address, we can just have the city field, like a city. We can just throw that in the address column. But what I'm gonna do is, because like we're gonna do what we did with the serializing array and just have cities inside of here. And I think that's a fine, like part of the reason you want to like avoid maybe using arrays in databases is because you don't know how big they're gonna be. And you don't want to like store a ton of information in an array in a database. But something like cities, that's, I don't know, there's like a buyer might have like, I don't, at most like maybe 50 cities they want to live in. So it's not going to be like a crazy amount of data. So going through this is going to be a string. I'm going to make this text just because it might get a little bigger. I'll make that text. And this also needs a foreign key, which is going to be the agent ID.
For the max price, would you want to do like a float or an integer or something?
I just typed that wrong. Yeah, we would definitely want that to be a number of some sort. And yeah, I think it's something else we had in here, not like huge deal, but like an email in our buyers. But that really gives us the information to build this out now. We have our model, because with this, we can go generate our Rails models like really easily. This is Rails G model agent, first name, last name, email, phone. Rails G model buyer, first name, last name, max price, float, cities, text, agent belongs to. So we now know what our database looks like. And something I might do is take a screenshot of this, or mod like of this. Now, and in my Trello board, my resource, I might want to like throw a card here, like design. And like add that image, add that attachment. Some screenshots. Now I kind of just have a quick, easy reference to this. I could also like take my link to this Lucidchart, throw that here, just in case if I ever need to go make changes, I want to look at it. I just have this quick reference in my Trello board to go look at that. Cool. Any questions on that? And I should switch the max price to max underscore price. Because this can really kind of become what I call like a source of truth. Like, what do I call something, or what is it going to be called in my database? It's kind of like when you look at your schema, .rb, it's like, how are things spelled? So then your front end people can look at this and be like, oh, I'm probably going to get back, if I do like a buyer call, I'm going to get back, this is, first name, last name, max price, cities, agent ID. So this is going to help your team be on the same page. That is like so important when it comes to like project management. It's getting your team all on the same page. And this is why you use a tool like Trello. It's because you can all like kind of share this same source of what everyone's doing on. Like, imagine you're like at Google and you have a team of like 200 people. Like, you're going to need something like this to keep track of everything. Like who's working on what features are we building? What features need to come up next? Like where, because this is a very dynamic process. Software is, and Nee's going to do a presentation on agile development, but it's very agile. It's very like pivot and like be ready to change. So it makes it a little hectic, but that's just the way it is. It makes it fun though. It's always changing. So cool. I think this is a good place to take a little break. Are there any questions on this? And I'll say this, like, this is like, we're going through this project management part really quick. You would normally, like, if you're building out an app, you might take like a week or so, depending how big it is. You might take months to plan this out even before you start coding it. So we're taking like an hour or two. So we're kind of going through it rather quickly, but our app is not that huge that we're building. So I think that's okay. But cool, let's take a break. Let's come back at 10:45, and then I think we can actually start getting into the code.